Hey guys, Jordan here from Carltech Revolution, and today I'm going to be installing our Carltech front skid plate. Now next we're going to install our Blaze front skid plate. Now your bumper has to be fully installed before you want to install this. So first step to getting this assembled is we give you this Carltech Revolution plate. That just bolts to the bottom of the skid plate here. Okay. We give you these little countersink bolts here. That just sits in there, and use those to hold it. And just go ahead and, now once you have all your bolts in, we're gonna go ahead and just grab our flange nuts here. Go ahead and thread those guys on. Now once you have your Carltech plate on here, we're gonna go ahead and tighten up all these Allens here. This Allen socket is at 7/32. So since these are serrated flange lock nuts, you don't have to use a wrench. Once it grabs the metal, it'll go ahead and just tighten itself up. But you will have to get it against the metal to fully grab and tighten. Now once you have that plate tightened up, we're going to go ahead and install this vent cover here. Now this is just going to go right here, line up with all these holes. Grab your provided hardware here and just place the bolts in all the holes. Now once you have this vent on, all the bolts through, go ahead and throw the nuts on the back side. Just like the plate here, these are serrated flange nuts, so you don't need a wrench or anything to hold them, to tighten them up. Just make sure that they're against the metal. Use a 5/32 Allen bit. Just go ahead and tighten all of them up. Now to install your skid plate, we're gonna have to remove these factory brackets that the factory skid plate went to. Now there's just these two bolts up here that hold this bracket on, but these brackets also hold up your intercooler. So when you remove these brackets, this intercooler is gonna wanna fall. If you shove it up there, it might stay in place, but just be careful that it might come down a little bit, but it's not gonna fall out of the vehicle. So this is a 15mm socket with a 6/6 extension. Just gonna go ahead and remove those. And this is held in with this little rubber grommet here. So when you do this, when you pull it, it might pop out like so. And you're just gonna have to kind of work it out and just remove that bracket. Same thing on the other side. See how that intercooler is starting to fall there, but it will, like I said, it will hold itself up. Just be careful when you're pulling on this not to tug it out of there. Now once you have that bracket removed, the intercooler is kind of just sitting here. These little rubber grommets that were holding those brackets to the intercooler, we're gonna go ahead and just kind of spin those off, work them off. And we provide these little spacers here. That's gonna go onto the intercooler, and then this rubber grommet is gonna go back on it, and that's just gonna space it down. Just make sure it's nice and snug on there. Now we're actually gonna replace the factory intercooler brackets with these brackets here. Now, this plate just sits here in sandwiches between the frame and this bracket, and this is just gonna go into that rubber grommet there. Just gonna put that into there, push up on the intercooler, make sure it kind of snips in place, and then you're gonna use, on the rear, you're gonna use the factory bolt and just get that started. Once you get that bolt in and held up, we're just gonna grab the other factory bolt and just thread that in. Now, same thing on the other side. Just gonna sandwich those two plates together. Use your factory bolts, get those started. And then we're just gonna take our 15mm socket and maybe kind of just assist that a little bit. Make sure that those grommets are in. And when you tighten them up, they should help pull it in a little bit. Now I just want to talk about how crucial a skid plate can be when you're an off-roader. So with this particular bumper, removing the factory skid plate does not work. So with our skid plate, it covers up this intercooler. So you see that if there was nothing here, this intercooler is just completely exposed to all the elements. So if you're out wheeling or rock crawling, boom, rock hits it, your intercooler is gone. So with our skid plate, it covers all that, all the goodies up here get covered up by that skid plate. So that is why it's very, very crucial to have it. Now in this lower skid plate here, our skid plate actually works with this factory lower one here, but we are gonna replace these bolts that we left in earlier to slide that skid plate off. So we just provide you with some longer hardware here. Just go ahead and thread those on, maybe about a 1/2 inch showing. We're gonna backtrack a little bit. We're gonna remove these two front bolts here. And then we're going to take this skid plate, and see how those two rear holes right there are slotted. We're going to take this and slide them in just like that. And then we're going to take our bolts that we removed and thread those back in to hold this up. Now, once you have everything just kind of hanging here with the skid plate, we provide bolts to put into the bumper here to hold the skid plate to the actual bumper. There's just these 1/2-inch Allen bolts here. Just kind of maneuver the bumper, line those up. Now, once you have all the hardware started, we're gonna go ahead and start tightening it up. With these, just an 8mm Allen socket here, and it'll just start to pick up that skid plate. Now, once you have those 1/2-inch bolts on the front tightened, I'm gonna go ahead and just tighten up our intercooler bolts again. And now we're just gonna tighten up those two lower bolts here. So this one you kind of have to go through the skid plate a little bit. That's just a 17mm socket. Tighten that up. Tighten that up. And you can see that it kind of just sandwiched between those two. And that's how you install our Blaze front lower skid plate on a Ford Bronco. Now, if you want to learn more about this skid plate, go ahead and click the link below. And remember, when installing this, make sure to always follow your instructions that come in the box.